Good morning, Facebook and YouTube friends. This is Judy. I had a dream last night, a prophetic dream, and it wasn't a pleasant one. So I'm going to tell you the dream, and then I'm going to tell you how I broke it down. I was in a house, and it was supposed to be my house. Didn't look like my house, but all my possessions were being removed. And I kept running around asking people, what's going on? What's happening? And nobody would tell me. And I was naked in the dream. And I had been on the floor. And my deceased mother, who I love very dearly, was in the dream. And I reached my hand out to her to try to ask her to lift me, help me get up. And she wouldn't do it. And I started yelling at my mom that that she wouldn't do it, that it was a selfish thing, that she wouldn't help me get off the ground. And then things were being moved out of the house. And at one point, my husband was there, and he said to me when I confronted him, he looked me right in the eye and said, "I don't need you. I don't need you anymore," or whatever. So it was a very disturbing dream because although my husband is not born again, he is very devoted to me and very out of character for that behavior. And my mom was very, very close to me. She's the closest person to me out of all my family. I loved her dearly, and I took care of her for many years before she passed away. And then I heard Johnny Cash singing in my head. I fell into the burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames got higher, and it burns, 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 the ring of fire. And then I heard in my head, provoke and I shall enter. Very disturbing dream. So what I did is I looked up a few things, and I looked up the ring of fire. And of course, you know what that is. That's the perimeter of the West Coast, and it circles the continents that surround the Pacific Ocean, the body of water, all of the continents and the countries that are encircled in that inlet is the Ring of Fire. And of course, there's much concern about that area could experience a very high volume earthquake because of the plates, the shifting of the plates. So I'm thinking that maybe the destruction of the house could be because of something that's going to unfold and erupt in that area. Now, naked, I looked up naked in the Bible, and actually naked means to be without truth. In Revelation 16:15, it says, "Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame." So the nakedness was symbolic for everybody to, I believe that it was the Lord's way of saying, wake up, make sure your garment is clean and pressed, and that you're not naked and full of shame. And then I looked up, let's see, because it was my mother and my husband, I looked up family. What does its Bible say about family? And this is what it says. The concept of family is extremely important in the Bible, both in a physical sense and a theological sense. The concept of family was introduced in the very beginning, as we see in Genesis 1:28. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the flesh of the sea and the birds of the air and over every living creature that moves on the ground. God's plan for creation was for men and women to carry and have children. And man and woman would form a one flesh union through marriage in Genesis 2:24, and they with their children become a family, the essential building block of human society. We also see early on that family members were to look after and care for one another. Now we see that two family members in that dream did not care for me. When God asked Cain, "Where is where is Abel your brother?" Cain's response is flippant, and he says, "Am I my brother's keeper?" The implication is that yes, Cain was expected to be Abel's keeper and vice versa. Not only was Cain's murder of his brother an offense against humanity in general, but it was especially egregious because it was the first recorded case of fratricide, which means the murder of one's sibling. The Bible has a more communal sense of people and family than is generally held in Western cultures today, where citizens are more individualized than people in the Middle East, and definitely more so than the people of the ancient Near East. Now it says here, where God saved Noah from the flood, it wasn't an individual case of salvation, but a salvation for him, his wife, his sons, and his sons' wives. In other words, his family was saved in Genesis 6:18. When God called Abraham out of Haran, he called him and his family in Genesis 12:4 and 5. The sign of the Abrahamic covenant, circumcision, was to be applied to all the males within one household, whether they were born into the family or are a part of the household servant staff. Genesis 17:12, 13. In other words, God's covenant with Abraham was familial, not individual. The importance of family can be seen in the provisions of the Mosaic covenant. For example, 2 of the 10 commandments deal with maintaining the cohesiveness of the family. The 5th commandment regarding honoring the parents is meant to preserve the authority of parents in family matters. And the 7th commandment prohibiting adultery protects the sanctity of marriage. From these 2 commandments flow all of the various other stipulations in the Mosaic law, which seeks to protect marriage and family. The health of the family was also important to God, that it was codified in the National Covenant of Israel. This is not solely an Old Testament phenomenon. The New Testament makes many of the same commands and prohibitions. Jesus speaks on the sanctity of marriage and against frivolous divorce in Matthew 19. The Apostle Paul talks about what Christian homes should look like when he gives the twin commands of children. Obey your parents, and parents, don't provoke your children. There was that word in my dream, provoke, and I will enter. Ephesians 6:1-4 and Colossians 3:20-21. Furthermore, we see similar New Testament concepts regarding the importance of family in the process of salvation in the book of Acts, when on 2 separate occasions during Paul's second missionary journey, entire households were baptized as the conversion of one individual. Acts 16:11-15 and 16:31-33. This is not to condone infant baptism or baptismal. Okay, regeneration. But it is interesting to note that just as the Old Testament sign of the covenant, circumcision, was applied to whole families, So also the New Testament sign of the covenant baptism was applied to the entire household. We can make argument that when God saves an individual, his desire is for the family to be saved. Clearly, God's desire isn't just to save isolated individuals, but entire households. In Corinthians 1 Corinthians 7, the unbelieving spouse is sanctified through the believing spouse, meaning, among other things, that the unbelieving spouse is in a position to be saved through the witness of the believing spouse. Now, this just happened because the other day, actually 2 days ago, I watched a video. It's in one of my last video. If you go back and watch my last upload, my husband had sang this song publicly to me, "Stairway to Heaven," not Nights in White Satin, and because it had some special meaning to us when we first met, and I was watching him sing to me, and he was saying, "I love you," in the song, and it made me cry. And while I was crying, I begged the Lord to basically forgive him because he doesn't get it. And then the Lord proceeded, as you will see in my last video, to tell me that He heard my prayer and that He was going to absolve him. So this became a part of this dream too. I believe it's a second confirmation. And then the fact that I was losing my house and all the things in it, I asked the Bible, what does it mean to lose your possessions, your home? And it says here, one day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the eldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys were feeding beside them, and the Sabeans fell on them and carried them off and killed the servants with the edge of the sword. I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another came and said, the fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 columns, made a raid on the camels, and carried them off, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword. I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another came and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came across the desert, struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they are dead, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Then Job arose, tore his robe, shaved his head, and fell on the ground and worshipped. He said, naked I came from my mother's womb. I was naked. I was screaming at my mother to help get me off that floor. Okay? Naked I shall return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And it says here, in all of this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrongdoing. So I believe I was the Job on the floor. And this was very profound because, it is now the 10th of September, 2015. And as you know, the Shemitah year is going to be ending the 13th and the 14th this weekend. And of course, we may not see anything financial until the Monday, but it doesn't mean that something else can't occur, because along with this could be a huge shaking. So I just wanted to put this out, and if you have anything to add to this video, to my dream, I would appreciate you, putting in a comment or letting me know maybe I missed something about the dream, or maybe I was off in my interpretation. But anyway, I thought I would share it with you. It was a very rattling dream. I'm still reeling from it. And I think also it's Jesus telling us that he's coming. So out of all of this, upsetting mist from the dream, which is still lingering, there's the hope. Jesus is going to return and take us out of here. So keep looking up. Jesus is coming. I hope to hear from you today. God bless everyone. I love you. Stay in the Lord. Stay in the light. Keep looking up. Shalom.